Happy Wednesday or Tuesday. Wednesday when you're seeing this. Today we're going to talk about August 1st scriptures. They are Exodus 16, verses 2 to 4 and 9 to 15. So they leave out a little section, but I always just go right through.
Yeah.
We're also going to talk about Ephesians chapter 4, verses 1 to 16, Psalm 78, verses 23 to 29, and John 6, verses 24 to 35. So I'm just going to start and talk about one word that, to me, kind of sums all four of those up, and that's satisfies, or satisfied. In Exodus, it's all about the people in the wilderness, grumbling, always grumbling that they maybe should have stayed back because they're hungry, always grumbling to Moses. And, you know, it talks about Moses' instructions given from God to the people. And God sending manna in the morning and quail in the evening for them to eat. And that it's going to be a test of their faith. Ephesians, well, let me skip Ephesians for now because that one is a little bit different. Psalm 78 retells the story of the manna and the quail, and in their verses it talks about the grain of heaven and that it rained meat on them like dust, winged birds in the seas. So
A lot of metaphors.
yeah.
And I know when I was reading the commentaries, they said this week was just full of metaphors. And it really is in every one of the verses.
Yeah. And, you know, where it says it rained meat on them like dust, winged birds like the sands of the seas, and you think about the sand of the seas and how many grains that would be.
Yeah.
God gave to them in abundance.
Yes.
And, you know, they ate and were satisfied for a short time, and then they got greedy, and things didn't work out quite the way they thought was going to go.
And that food spoiled and maggots and
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I think is actually some verses past
yes.
this week, but yeah, God tested them, tested their faith. They ate, and it says they ate and were satisfied, but it didn't last.
Well,
So-
and I think again that's metaphor for, not just our physical need for food and bread, but also, our spiritual need for food and the bread of life. Not just what we eat physically, but that, the grumbling and the complaining that happens, and that, we do get filled. God fills us with His Spirit, and yet often not enough to us. It is for Him, just not for us.
Right. Which kind of, it brings us to the gospel, where Jesus is confronted kind of by the people that have been following Him, and He calls them out on why they're seeking Him. But it also goes back to, you can think of what you just said about Ephesians 4, 1 through 16, that Paul is explaining how God equips us to work together in harmony, and that grumbling that we're doing is kind of in the words that he uses. We've got human nature here is, we're cunning, we're crafty, deceitful schemes, grumbling. It explains human nature, but also Paul is telling us to look for Christ and to act and be like Christ, and that we were equipped. And in this one, they don't use the word satisfied, but if you are equipped with everything you need, you're satisfied.
You should be.
You should be, yes. But we're equipped to be one body together and working together in harmony. And often we aren't because of human nature.
Right. And I think in Ephesians 2, he talks about the truth, and I know in the commentaries, a lot of them felt that truth kind of spread like satisfied. truth kind of spread through there too, in that the truth of this all, the bottom line is that we don't have to do anything. We don't have to do good works. We don't have to do anything but believe, and
Right.
we are saved. And so all this grumbling and wanting more, and it's really, all we have to do is just have that faith that we talked about, this last week's, that, how important that faith is.
Yeah, and I think sometimes faith is work.
Is.
With all the, we're bombarded by all the different things in life, and it is hard to keep faith sometimes.
Yeah.
So
Those rough waters that I talked about in the
Yes.
sermon last week. Yeah.
they never stop.
No.
They just don't stop.
And we just don't let Jesus in our boat quite
Yeah.
quick enough. Or
It's amazing
Seems
how
so
all
hard.
of these weeks just kind of all lead into each other
they do.
over
And-
and over.
And in John, where it talks about last week, all the where Jesus fed the 5,000, and they all came. But why did they come? They didn't come because they wanted to hear his word. They didn't come because they loved Jesus. They came to see what they could get.
Right. And isn't that human nature?
Maybe they
want.
can heal me. And then he fed them all, and he saw that miracle. And they saw the selflessness of that little boy who gave the fish and who gave the bread. And yet the next day they came back, and there again, where's the free food?
Yep.
Now I want the free food.
Free
So
food.
again, the wrong reason.
Yeah.
And like we were talking before we taped, many times.
go.
Here we go again. That we do know, and yet again and again we do that because that's just us.
Many people say, well, how do we get people here? Well, just offer free food.
Yeah.
To the Bible.
Yeah.
This history book that just repeats over and over again.
Except for really when we offer, just like now when we offer free food, we're offering more. We're offering, we're offering that community with God,
Right.
and we're offering his word and community of our fellow believers. Just like he was offering, he fed those with free food, free fish, free bread, but that really wasn't what he was talking about when they asked him,
No.
when he said, I give you this bread, and that it wasn't the bread made with yeast and flour.
Yeah. They don't get it. That so often they don't get it in the stories of the Bible, and we don't get it
Right.
until somebody, really tries to open your eyes. And I love how Jesus diverts the questions. They came to him and said, well, when did you get here? When they first saw him again.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not answering their question. He's going right to the root of why they're seeking him. And they're working, and their work was walking to find him.
Right.
In my opinion, they didn't really do any work.
Right.
But why are they seeking him? In their ignorance is really that physical satisfaction of being fed, and he's calling them out on that, and that it shouldn't be for physical reasons.
And then there are questions about what do they need to do? What works do they need to do?
Mm-hmm.
What do we need to do to be saved? And it took them a while I don't know if they really did get it.
No, I don't think they did. And I think they were trying to be impressive, maybe, by referring back to Exodus. Like, we know the story. We know the story of Moses and the manna in the wilderness.
Yeah.
But they didn't understand, I don't think, that Jesus is part of the story.
And that God gave the manna.
Right, it wasn't Moses performing this miracle at all.
Yeah.
It was manna from heaven sent by God. but they're putting Moses up on the pedestal.
And not just to nourish their body, but to nourish their soul.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
well, we're there, Tracy.
It
We didn't
goes
think
so
we had
fast.
much to say this week,
We never think we have much to say. And
but we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always do. We can always talk about the word, and
yeah. And missing
Have
Michelle
lots.
today.
we are. And we hope
So-
that her mom is doing well. She had surgery, and Michelle is helping her, and we hope for her fast healing,
Yes.
and that Michelle is able to help her. I'm sure she's a really good nurse.
Yes.
So we hope you have a good week, and
Share the message.